Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz fusion artist Bob Holz. We talked to him in November 2020 during the COVID-19 world about his life and music, and more specifically his new album, Live in New York and LA. He's a graduate of the Berklee College of Music and has gone on to quite a career for himself. He explains this and much more. Enjoy.
So, hey, thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today.
Absolutely.
You have a live album that's going to come out, and I guess it's a two-part question here before we get into the actual project. What is it like for you to release an album during a pandemic in this kind of environment we live in right now?
I've buffered it a bit because initially I was going to release a studio album that is got a lot of really very high-profile musicians on it, and my producer and I decided because of this environment, maybe just so we can get some product out there, we have a really good live album in the can. Why don't we get a good mix on that and release that now, and then we'll release the studio album in the fall of 2021. So we tried to shield ourselves. It is definitely, in one respect, it's you can't really go out and tour to promote it other than virtual type stuff. So that's a negative, and also just the environment right now I think is glutted probably with a lot of new product being released as well. People just were holed up at home for the last number of months and have been recording and things like that. But on the positive side, I think also, this is an opportunity for us to dovetail off of my previous releases that have done well, and it's kind of a bridge to keep the brand expanding between now and when I release this studio record in the fall.
But it has to be refreshing to put a live album out. With this absence of live jazz, this probably is going to be ultimately a good thing for people to hear the crowd cheering and to kind of hear that world that we've always been used to.
Yeah, that's a good observation, I know.
How have you been doing during this whole quarantine? What have you been, satiating things creatively? What's been your kind of retrospective on this?
Well, it caused me to leave LA. I had been out in Los Angeles. I had relocated out there, and I was there for about a year and a half. And then, when this whole thing came, I moved back east. I'm in New York again until the dust kind of settles. But I have kept busy, musically through this process. I've done some videos. I, finished off all the mixing of this live album and, teed it up here to release it now on MVD in January. So I'm just trying to keep, active and, new projects, keep a positive attitude that things are going to get better here in the next couple of years, and look forward to taking my band out to play to support these releases.
So are you originally from New York?
Yes, I am. Yep, I grew up here. I went off to school at Berklee in Boston, and then I lived in the New York City area for quite a while. Played all over the tri-state area in New England, and then after a while, I decided I wanted to start trying to record some of my own music, and I have been doing that now since 2011. Yeah, just the first three albums were not released on MVD. So I've got this distribution deal with music video distributors, MVD Entertainment Group, and they've done a real good job for my previous 4 releases, and I've worked with a number of publicists. This new live album, I've contracted with Two for the Show Media. Chris DiGilarmo, I believe is how he pronounces it. He's a publicist that's worked with a lot of really high-profile drummers like Steve Gadd and Steve Smith, and has a good track record. So he's handling the print and some radio on this one.
How did you get involved with music early on? What were your experiences? What albums or shows did you see early on that really piqued your interest?
Yeah, so I got into the jazz thing after the rocking. I mean, the first concert I ever went to was Jimi Hendrix, so I was really sold on that whole thing of kind of blues rock with a drummer that had was strongly influenced by Elvin Jones and Buddy Rich, and that kind of turned my head to the jazz world. And then in the early 70s when Mahavishnu Orchestra came out, I went and saw them a few times, and Weather Report, and that whole jazz fusion movement that took off off the heels of Miles Davis's album there. So that really kind of spurred my interest in to go to music school. And I just took lessons and practiced real hard and went off to Berklee right out of high school. And it's just been, ever since then, that's been the passion, and have just kind of connected the dots as we moved through the years. It brought me to here now, where I've got a really good thing going. I've got 2 different bands, 4 albums, with a vast network of musicians that I've worked with and just really, have met a lot of people that have helped me along the way to do it. It was really through other folks' help that I was able to kind of get this thing off the ground and at least to a point where I can build on it. And it seems to keep growing, not real fast, but incrementally. So that's a good thing.
So what have you learned from being around, big names in the music industry, legends, luminaries, that have helped you teach younger musicians that you get around?
That would be more, I've learned about, playing a lot that I could, certainly give to a student. But I think even beyond that, broader is an understanding of, how to make a living in the music business, how to be competitive, to be relevant. And I learned that from, dealing with guys like Larry Coryell and Stanley Clarke and Randy Brecker, Mike Stern, people that have recorded with me. And in some cases, when the information they gave me, it took a while for it to settle in. But most of what those folks told me in the long run really did turn out to be true, And so, transferring that to, say, a young musician that wants to do a career in music, you have to have that kind of business hat to wear in tandem with your playing or whatever it is, that you do, to be able to advance yourself out there in the real world.
So what do you like the best about being a musician?
Me personally, I like the spontaneity of improvisation, just creating something with having a framework, and then around that being able to spontaneously create and play off of other musicians. That's what really drives me. It's like one of the best feelings, when things are clicking and there's this conversation going on between the musicians on stage. We all may have, a chart in front of us that, has this form, but the great thing about jazz is that, and especially the drummer, has a lot of freedom to interpret things in his own personal style. So that's what I really, get a kick out of, is that whole improv, interplay between the players on stage.
So when we do get back to the live stage, when, the COVID fog leaves us and the musician gets back on the stage and the fans get back in the crowd, what do you hope we all realize about this absence of live music in our lives?
Well, it's already, I've, contemplated this a lot, and it's really hit me because, when something great isn't there, you just realize that, how grateful you are that you had that. And so it's kind of, I think it's a gratitude thing, certainly, and even deeper respect for the gift of music, in that, there's things that can happen in the world that can, shut it down. And so this is something that's kind of unprecedented that a lot of, the folks on the live performance side and all the tradespeople that support that whole thing, have had to look at, and had to deal with the hardships that came with it getting shut down. So, so having a deep respect for the art form, and and that kind of translates to a deep respect for the other musicians, and we're all in this together. That there's room for everybody, and that we've got to come together and work together to advance the art form, to advance the values that go with what we believe in. So when art gets shut down, that's a huge kind of void in the whole culture. And but my feeling is things are going to turn around, and from talking to people and that are in the music business, we're all very optimistic that here in the next couple of years things are going to normalize, hopefully sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one that's living your life. Who do you think you are? Well,
I'm a number of different layers into what the basis of my personality. First of all, I'm a drummer. You hear this all the time, but it's true. I didn't pick the drums; they picked me. Ever since I first saw the drummers that really inspired me, I knew immediately that was something I wanted to do. And regardless of money, regardless of fame or anything like that, I just enjoy sitting down and playing and the feel of that, and the academic side of it too, of studying. And so, A, drummer, B, a recording artist that's creating music, not just just for the drums, but more for the songs that we're putting out. So, on a larger scale, writing new music, being a composer, and collaborating with other writers to put out quality music that I think, is going to hold the test of time, at least for a while, and that people can enjoy to listen to, now and going out into the future. And then finally, I am, I've got a daughter, so as a dad, that's a huge piece of Bob Holz. So she's in college now, and she's growing up quick, but I want to be as supportive as I can to her, and just instill what I think are key, important values that that were passed on to me by my parents, that that I want her to have a good future ahead of her. So those are the three real key pieces of what make me tick right now.
Hey, man, thank you for taking some time out for Neon Jazz today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was enjoyable. Anytime I get to chat and meet somebody new.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in L.A., New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Bob for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at YouTube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.